And good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Stirring the Pot in Cleveland. Hope everyone is doing well on this Monday evening, February 23rd, 2026. Thanks for joining us here on the Fanatical Elves Network. I'm your host tonight, John Suchan. Appreciate you being here. And we're talking Cleveland Browns, other things too, but primarily the Brownies. The Brownies are always in the news. Cleveland is, I've always say this, is always the center of the sports universe, I believe. It continues. It seems every year Cleveland is always in the highlights. So we'll get to that here momentarily. Congratulations, just a shout out to our Olympians who just finished up, and the hockey teams, the men and women's team both won gold this year. The men won a dramatic fashion game, as did the women. Both matches against the Canadians. The men got a goal in overtime. The women won similarly 2 nights before that. So congratulations to them. Congratulations to all of the Olympians across the globe, Americans and other countries. So much camaraderie and sportsmanship when you watch these athletes. I've mentioned this on my other Johnny Cleveland podcast, that the opportunity, when I was younger, got to see the Olympics in person. Went to Calgary, Alberta in 1988, and was got to see all of the different fan bases and the nationalities and people, cheering on their teams. And so it's just neat to see that. Our figure skater recently this year, last name Liu, Alyssa Liu, wonderful skate, for free skate, won the gold medal for the first time for the United States since 2006, I believe. So just so many great things going on. So that just finished up. But back to the game of football, the Brownies, of course, like I said, are always in the center of the universe of sports. Uh, we have all these beat writers here in Cleveland, and they're getting old. And I'm old too. But some of these guys like Tony Grossi and Mary Kay Cabot. Mary Kay just can't stop talking, and she oftentimes stirs the pot, like the name of the show here. And she's stirring the pot by talking about Malik Willis and Ty Simpson, and she puts this together in some sort of sentence in a recent whatever she wrote. And so people take that as like the Bible and think that it's real and all this fun stuff, and it's crazy. Um, Let me do something real quick here while we are on air live here. Well, I tell you, thanks for again watching us here right now live. We are on Facebook, we are on YouTube, and we are on the X. But I gotta go back over to the X, Twitter, and post live because the X is continually having issues with StreamYard and who else, on other companies as well, and they're trying to get it fixed. But in order to post these live feeds on the X right now, they give us instructions on how to do this. It's an unnecessary step that they better figure out, because we paid for the blue check mark. So, all right, let's see here. I'm going to open this up, and you're going to see that, and I'm going to go share. We're going to share it here again. And now I believe we are live now on the X. So thank you for tuning in to Stirring the Pot in Cleveland. As we were saying, Mary Kay Cabot, who loves to stir the pot like the show intends here, started talking about Malik Willis, who's going to be is a free agent. You can tell how bad free agency is when Malik Willis is at the top of the leaderboard when it comes to free agency. It's just crazy to me to see this guy who has done jack squat since he came into the league get so much unnecessary hype for being a really not a quarterback. And so some of these people who are starting to talk about this, and Mary Kay Cabot is stirring the pot with this, suggesting that the Browns are really tuned in and really paying attention to Malik Willis, and then this kid coming out of Alabama who has no experience in the NFL and little experience as a college quarterback. Somehow the Browns are intrigued with this. It makes no sense whatsoever. And so uh, Malik Willis, we'll just start with this. Malik Willis has been in the league, what, 4 years now? 2 years in Tennessee, 2 years in Green Bay. He's done jack shit at either one of these locations. Nothing at all. Zip. And somehow we're going to give him a 2 year deal for $70 million and think that he's going to be the new franchise quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. Now, I know the Browns, not a lot of you don't consider the Browns in the organization to be top notch, and some of you describe it as dysfunctional, but I'm going to give the Browns some credit here. They are not going to make a boneheaded, stupid mistake like that. They're not going to bring in Malik Willis. If they do, I'd be shocked. We'll talk about it if that ever happens, but it's not going to happen. It's just not. Going back to Shedeur Sanders, and we'll talk about Ty Simpson here in a second. There are a lot of you out there who are still very skeptical. I can't say the damn word. Skeptical that Shedeur can't get the job done, even though he's already quarterbacked 7 games for the Cleveland Browns, had a respectable, decent 3-4 record. Some of you still believe that he's not a starting quarterback. And my colleague, even Steve Gill on our network here in the Fanatical Elves, who does the Dog Pound South show, tune into his shows on Sundays, suggests that he's not the Browns' future starter. I totally disagree. I believe that Shedeur Sanders is the starter, or should be given the opportunity and should be the starter going into the next season. And I believe that Todd Monken, who's the new Browns head coach, is very much likes Shedeur Sanders. I think he respects him. I think he's wanted him since he came out of college. Even when he was Baltimore, he suggested they tried to draft him. I think that he knows and sees what a lot of us who are more optimistic about Shedeur Sanders see. I think this kid has tremendous upside. So I do not believe that I believe that he has the spot. So the Malik Wills kid, I mean, it's just dumb. It's not going to happen. Mary Kay is again just stirring the pot, and some of you out there in social media, La La Land, are just creating, putting this crap out there and going with it because it's going to give you clicks. I understand. I don't completely respect that because you're just running with whatever, but I get it. This Ty Simpson character out of Alabama. I mean, come on, folks. Ty Simpson, really? Um, Ty Simpson has no experience in college. He played in 15 games last season at Alabama. Alabama's was not a very good football team this past year. And he was okay. He had 28 touchdown passes to 5 interceptions. He played in 15 games or started 15 games this season, but that literally was it. And if you go back in time and you look at any quarterback, there are very few, like almost zero quarterbacks with that little college experience. Yes, he's been in 30 games, but he only started in 15. There is little evidence that this guy, that anybody could do a a good job with that limited amount of starts. It's not going to happen. And so again, people are going to buy into this crap because it's the tune of the day that, hey, the Browns are looking at Malik Willis and Ty Simpson. No, they're not. Okay, they're looking at every damn quarterback out there in free agency and in the draft. Browns fans know that. Most smart Browns fans understand that. if you're going along with this crap and actually believe what Mary Kay is posted and you want to run with it, fine. But it's boneheaded and it's not smart. We got 200 plus days before the season starts. There's going to be a lot more stuff being said that's just silly season, ridiculous crap. We got free agency coming up. We got the combine starting first later this week. Then we have the free agency window. So actually, free agency is going to set the tone pretty much for everything else. Steve Gill and I were talking about this the other night. And so that's what we are in for. Just ignore some of this fluff that comes out. It's good for our show, Stirring the Pot, because it gives us some stuff to talk about tonight, but just ridiculous takes. So, we're also talking, I want to get into this a little bit with the Brownies, their draft selection that outside of free agency. Talk a little bit more about drafts because right now people have the Browns taking about a bazillion different players with some particular interest in certain position players. But we'll talk about that on the other side of this break. This is Stirring the Pot in Cleveland. We'll be right back. Hey, we are back here on Stirring the Pot in Cleveland. Yeah, I'm broadcasting from the top our loft. I don't know if you guys can catch the lamp over here, and I got the brown stuff over here, and we're doing we've got it all set up here, brown stuff everywhere. The other topic that has been coming up with the draft, many people are talking about the Browns need this, they need that. They need primarily, people say, a brand new offensive line. Last week it was the tune of the week was, oh, the Browns could have an entirely new offensive line. And granted, there are some reasons for that. We still don't know what's going to happen with Joel Bitonio. He could retire. Wyatt Teller is leaving, posted that on social media. This is what players do now. They post things on social media and take pictures of their food. That's been happening now for a while. I'm still trying to get used to that. So, offensive lineman, wide receiver. Those are kind of the two positions that the Browns continually people talk about. Now there have been some drafts because we're so far out still from the draft. The draft isn't for another 2 months from today, by the way. It starts on April 23rd. It's February 23rd. So that's right. We still have 2 months until the draft. So there will be a lot more mock drafts and a lot more silly season of talking about all of these things. The latest last week or the week before, the concentration here in Cleveland was on Caleb Downs, the safety for Ohio State. Now, me as just somebody who follows the team and analyzes the team and writes about the team, believes that Caleb Downs could fit into the Browns really nicely, even though he's a defensive player. I know Steve Gill and I talked the other night on our show about, well, what would you do with Caleb Downs if you already had Grant Delpit? Well, Grant Delpit is going the last year of his contract. He's going to be 28 years old. And and we don't know what the defense is exactly going to look like, but from everything that I've read about the new guy coming in, Mike Rudenberg, that a player like Caleb Downs would fit into that defense easily. You could put him on the field at the same time that you had Grant Delpit. You could put Caleb Downs in, like at Ohio State. The Buckeyes had Caleb Downs playing linebacker. They had him coming up on to take on the inside guy. They got the wide receiver in those little slant routes. You could put Caleb Downs anywhere on that defense, and he would help. So I certainly think that's still in play. I know some people think it's ridiculous. I think it would be dynamite and fantastic, and he's the best player in this draft, hands down. I live here in Columbus. All they talk about are these great players in with the Buckeyes, but they all agree that Caleb Downs is the guy. But getting back to this conversation, let's say the Browns don't do that, then it's wide receiver, offensive lineman. The wide receiver that a lot of people are talking about is Carnell Tate with the Buckeyes. Now, Carnell Tate, Is he going to be there at 6? I'm pretty sure he's going to be. Do the Browns take him? Now, I mean, I've talked about this the other time on this show or the other show I was doing. If Carnell Tate and Caleb Downs are there at the same time at 6, I mean, I'm taking Caleb Downs any day of the week. I wanted to talk a little bit about the wide receiver thing because the wide receiver situation, in talking about Andrew Berry, their general manager, and the guy who's kind of been part of this and picking the players and all of this, I wanted to kind of go back in time and share out a little bit about his track record with wide receivers in the draft. Now, we all know that Andrew Berry has been part of a couple, important trades for wide receivers. The biggest one is Amari Cooper, which some of us are expecting that will he do that again in this offseason in a trade for a top-notch wide receiver? Of course, if that happens, I think that definitely we're like, no, we don't need Carnell Tate. Jerry Jeudy, Amari Cooper. I don't like Jerry Jeudy. I still think we don't need him. Go somewhere else, but he's going to stay here for a little bit. So getting back to the whole the draft thing, Carnell Tate's there at 6. Some people are still projecting the Browns to take him. I wouldn't be disappointed if they took him. I'd be disappointed if they took him and I knew that Caleb Downs was still sitting there. But let me go through just the wide receivers that Andrew Berry has been part of over the last several seasons. Last draft, they didn't draft a wide receiver. They did not at all. They surprised people by taking 2 defensive players. And so, of course, this year, the concentration has been, will the Browns then focus all their attention on offense? That's at least the narrative going into the combine and the free agency and the draft. Now, the year before that, in 2024, the Browns drafted Jamari Thrash. Has anybody seen Jamari Thrash? Calling Jamari Thrash. He was drafted in the 5th round. In the 5th round, Jamari Thrash. That was in 2024. The previous draft ahead of that one, the Browns did take. Now, this is recall, if you remember, they didn't have a 1st or 2nd round draft pick in 2023. They decided to take Cedric Tillman in the 3rd round at pick 74. How's that worked out? Not very good. Are you excited about Cedric Tillman coming back? Nor am I. Besides that, you're going to have to go back. So that was the only wide receiver they took in 2023. So if you're counting with me, the Brownies and Andrew Berry have taken right so far 2 wide receivers over the last 3 drafts. Well, let's go back a little ways. In 2022, the Browns drafted David Bell. That David Bell, not the baseball player, but the other one who played for Purdue, who was the Big Ten wide receiver of the year back then in 2022. They drafted David Bell in the 3rd round again. And after that, they drafted Michael Woods II. I think the Browns just dropped him or he went somewhere else. He was drafted in the 6th round. Now, this is 2022. Okay. Before that, 2021, if you're following me here, who did the Browns draft then at wide receiver? Yes. Oh, I know you all. A fan favorite of most of yours. A one Anthony Schwartz. Yeah, the guy who missed the pass that was thrown by Baker Mayfield, who then Baker Mayfield made the knucklehead decision to try to tackle the guy that intercepted his pass. Yeah, that same Anthony Schwartz. He could run really fast, but he couldn't catch anything. They only drafted that guy, Anthony Schwartz, in 2021. Now, in 2020, the Browns drafted, I don't know if Andrew Berry was part of this draft. I think he was. Correct me if I'm wrong. But they did take, at the very end of the 2020 draft, they took Donovan Peoples Jones. Made a nice catch in Cincinnati one year, and then we always thought he'd do more. So the narrative here is, again, the Browns, since 2020, they've taken 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wide receivers over the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drafts. So they took 2 in one year and they didn't take 1 in the other year. So basically, the Browns aren't using their draft to look at wide receivers. They don't consider them very important. So people have the assumption right now that Andrew Berry is going to go out and either get one in free agency, and there are some wide receivers of note that we could potentially target, or you could trade for another one. Who they go out and trade for, you'd have to look at contracts and different situations, and I'm sure Andrew Berry is doing that right as I'm talking. But the idea that the Browns are going to, like some of you are projecting that Browns are going to go out and get Carnell Tate or this Lemon kid or Lennon or Lemon kid from USC or there's some other good wide receivers. I don't know. Now I'm working on an article right now for Dog Pound Daily, and I'm trying to find this. I've got to double check on the guy's name. Let me see here. Yeah, the kid's name is Jeff Caldwell. I'm going to put out an article here in the next day, so tune in for that on Dog Pound Daily. But Jeff Caldwell had played this past season for Cincinnati. Before that, he played for Division II Linwood. He's a vertical freak. He runs really long strides, quick, tall. He had a growth spurt when he was going from in high school, where he went from like 5'8" to like 6'4", and the kid is talented. He played at the Senior Bowl, had some nice catches there. But I'm working on an article about him because he kind of projects right now with a lot of these draft selections as sort of a third, fourth, fifth, or maybe not third, but like a fourth, fifth, or sixth round draft pick. The Browns, in this one article I was reading, projected the Browns taking him in the 4th round. Now, that would pretty much be kind of typical for where the Browns have been looking at drafting wide receivers. So the Browns really haven't gone out and gotten somebody in that 1st or 2nd round as a wide receiver. Cedric Tillman was drafted in the 3rd round. We had high hopes for him, but that's not working out. Jamari Thrash, that hasn't worked out. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I don't think right now that the idea of, if Carnell Tate is there at 6, I just don't know if the Browns take him because I don't know how much they value a wide receiver. Now, if he's there at 24, or if the Browns push back and they give away their 6th pick and they get an extra pick in the 1st round, let's say, maybe they take a Carnell Tate later in that 1st round if he's still available. We'll just have to wait and see. It's an interesting dynamic. So much conversation. We'll continue to have chats here on our Fanatical Elves network, and who knows? At this point, it's one of those things that's not going to go away. The Browns are going to draft somebody or 2 or 3, and we'll all continue. We'll debate and we'll discuss it. You think about like a year ago. Well, then that's kind of like what you go back and you talk about the quarterback situation and this conversation I had at the beginning about Malik Willis and Ty Simpson, the kid coming out of Alabama, and him getting his name in the paper today, and people thinking, oh man, the Browns are really serious about it. No, they're not. The kid has 15 starts. What I'm getting at is the people that evaluate these quarterbacks. There was this conversation, I think Emery Hunt, who I know our colleague Rod Bloom, who does the Browns Blitz, had this sports writer TV guy, I think his name's Emery Hunt. He talked again about Ty Simpson briefly today. Not that he likes him, and he says he's got some qualities. And he was talking about, I think he was talking about Mendoza too, and the Indiana quarterback. But this guy, this Hunt guy, was saying, I tend to agree with this, that the candidates that are coming out at quarterback, none of them are that impressive, and none of them, according to him, grade higher than any of the guys that came out last year. I mean, he said that Shador Sanders graded out higher in his opinion than any of these guys, from Mendoza to Simpson. And I totally agree with that. And that's why I've said, and I'm going to continue to say, that I believe that Shador Sanders is our starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, and potentially the franchise quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. And I'm excited about it. And if you are one of those doubters, and you were one of those people that just want to continually say, well, I don't know, maybe you should try to support the kid. Maybe you should try to get on board. And I totally believe that somebody like Todd Monken, the new coach of the Cleveland Browns, he knows that he's got something special with Shador Sanders. You used to watch that interaction when they first met. That's genuineness. That's not fake, folks. And I believe that those two people, and the group of people behind the scenes, are really working a lot that we don't know anything about. And I believe that Shador is going to be given that opportunity. I think he's going to take full advantage of it. And I think the Browns right now have their guy. I believe that. So you might want to get on board now early, because you can get on board later in a few years when we're aiming for championships and Super Bowls. We're not there yet, but we got to fix some things along the way, obviously. So we'll see, but it's lots more talk about. We'll probably end the show right now on that. We'll have more shows later this week. We've got my show, the Johnny Cleveland Show, coming up. We've got Rod Bloom's The Browns Blitz and other Browns breakdowns with Sam the Man. So tune in for those programs later. And we got our Fanatical Elves show coming up Thursday with Sam and Steve. So tune back in for that. We appreciate you tuning into our network, tuning into the Fanatical Elves Network, listening to us on Apple, on Spotify, anywhere you listen to your podcasts. Spread the love, spread the word. We're a Cleveland Browns podcast, and we just like to talk about Browns football and Cleveland sports just like you. Everybody take care. Have a good night. Go Browns.